Welcome to Tub Talks with Damon. My very special guest in the tub today is Rabbi David Dunn Bauer.
Shalom. Shalom.
How are you?
I'm very well.
I'm so glad you're here.
Yes.
I'm so glad you're here. I've had the pleasure to interview you before.
Right, but we were in a not as a tub not as suited to the purpose.
Right. We were at Easton Mountain, and that interview was in the Tub Talks, and it was a great interview. The only thing was all the ABBA music and Pink and all the disco music, which I do love, but it just sort of interviewing with our subject. So now we get to talk, and we just have Brooklyn apartment noises that we will be contending with. Little quieter than the disco.
Okay.
I'm so glad you're here. I think your work, your energy, your mind, your spirit contributes so importantly to our world. Importantly. I don't even know that's a word, but it is. You know what I mean. Yes. Okay. Before we talk about the things that you are creating, I want to know, David, what do you like most about your body right now?
So, that answer has expanded slightly since last we spoke. Since you last asked me that question. So, still, the one consistent answer is still under the bubbles, my hands.
My hands, yes.
And I love my hands because they're really skilled, and I have a lot of nuanced control over them in terms of how they touch people, and particularly in the kind of specialized erotic massage work that I do. That being able to be present in my hands, to really feel what they're doing, and to be able to adjust pressure and aim and pattern in a subtle way, it just makes a very big difference. So I love my hands.
And I love that you are thinking about the ways you use your hands in subtle massage and pressure. Can you tell me more about that experience? What is it you're offering, and what is that like?
Yes. So I do erotic massage in a 3-strand form. I tell everybody this. It's on the profile. It's everywhere. That it is therapeutic, it's playful, and it is spiritual. So therapeutic is the easiest part. I just want someone to feel better when he's on the table and when he gets off of the table than he did before he got onto the table. The playful part is that I like to work naked. Most of my clients like to be naked. Most of my clients are men who have sex with men, and so there's a comfort with our being erotically present for each other and touching and being touched. So again, fairly simple. The spiritual part is the part that I think for me is, it's personal to me, and I think it is unique to the massage that I do. I am a rabbi. I have, nothing like an exhaustive knowledge of the tradition, but I have enough knowledge of the tradition to be dangerous. And so I build on a millennia-old practice of Judaism, which is to start the day with a series of blessings for the body. And we bless not just in general, not just saying, oh, let good things happen to this body or to my body, but we bless for specific things. We bless for our senses of sight and hearing. We bless for our capacity to be flexible. We bless for the ability to stand up straight after we have been bent over. We bless for firmness of step. We bless for the sensations of skin. We bless for, I'll come up with another one. We bless for radiance. We bless for strength. We bless for breath. And the last blessing in the sequence is a blessing for the plumbing of the body, all of the openings and vessels of the body, which the prayer translates, "Blessed is the Holy One who created," and this time I'll use a gendered translation, "created man in wisdom and created within him all the openings and vessels of the body." Interesting thing, just a little grammar footnote. So that is using gendered language in terms of how human beings were created. So it says created man in wisdom, or it maybe even means sculpted man out of wisdom, like had a whole bunch of wisdom in divine hands and created the human being out of that. And including that, created the openings and vessels of the body. Okay. Oh man, this happens to me only because I thought I was going to be clever and therefore I lose the word. Halulim, nekavim, nekavim. So openings and vessels, and one of those, nekavim, is actually the word for female. So it's even about creating. So even if you're saying created man with these openings within him that are described in prayer with the word for feminine or female. And so I bring an awareness of all of these blessings when I'm touching somebody. The idea is that the blessings and the capacity to feel pleasure, that's built in. That's factory settings, original in everybody.
That we're born with that ability to physically experience great depths of pleasure.
Yes, great depths of pleasure, to experience our bodies not just as one. Like, how do you feel today? Oh, I feel okay. But to say, well, actually, so there's my sight, which does this, my hearing, which does that, my flexibility, my sensations, everything, including the network of plumbing within me that makes it possible for my body to function. So all of those different aspects of self have a capacity to feel pleasure and satisfaction. They have and I guess they can also feel unique pain and unique trauma as well. But the point being that we're never just a kind of homogenized sum. We're always all of these different aspects of self at the same time. And so when I touch people, I do that with the intention that they become aware of different aspects of themselves. And every part of a person requires, if you're going to do it right, it requires a different kind of touch. Like, it can't just be, you can't just get out the sandblaster or the rolling pin. Like, you have to be able to touch appropriately where you are.
Yeah.
And that's where I have skills, is that I know intuitively what kind of touch, what the range is, and how to introduce it. I still require my clients to be specific with me about, that's a little bit much today, or I would like more than that, or can you just a little bit there? I was born with the ability to skip a lot of steps just because, I don't know, I have the intuition.
So what I love about this framework is that it's preceding the body. The word that comes to my mind is sacred. Sacred, spiritual vessels that we are given to experience this world in a pleasurable way.
Yeah.
And I feel like that is adjacent yet so opposite of so many of the messages we get in the gay community about our bodies. That if we ever do get around to talking about our bodies and pleasure, it's usually in a very either specific goal-oriented way about fucking, about either goal-oriented top or bottom penetration kind of thing. Or in my world, it's, you know, the body is always talked about in a continuum of risk. You know, in the HIV world, it's always about risk this and risk that.
And so we're often taught about our bodies as sacred, and that therefore we're to protect them to such a degree that we actually never even unwrap them, right? That, you know, it's better that it should, you know, go through its entire life without ever really having been explored or used. And so I'm getting comfortable, but I fidget a lot. So what's comfortable at this moment is then going to be, it's going to change.
Beautiful.
So the body as temple message is very often given in terms of avoid sexual, that's code for avoid sexual sin. Your body's a temple. So your body's a temple.
Like in traditional religious.
Right, your body's a temple. So, don't put any alcohol or any drugs in it. Okay, your body's a temple. For God's sakes, don't besmirch it with your erotic experimentations and adventures. Your body's a temple, man.
That sounds more like the Christian Catholic tradition.
Well, you know, you can...
being a pure temple. I guess when I think of the body as a temple, I think of it as something that is sacred and worthwhile of respect and worthwhile of sharing.
Yes.
And exploring and using every which way possible.
I agree with you, but that's not necessarily how textual tradition, and it's certainly not how social tradition has evolved. No, people are very often so going back to Hebrew Bible, where there are concepts of Ta'umah and Tahara, which are ritual impurity and purity, and there's no everybody becomes ritually impure every now and again in their life. Everybody, because you can't avoid it, because you're human. And there's no judgment on that, but it did mean in the ancient world that if you were in a state of ta'umah, if you were in a state of impurity, you just had to avoid the presence of God. And in the ancient world, in the biblical mind, according to the text, the presence of God is not spiritual, it's not metaphorical. The presence of God is the presence, like right there, that's where God is. Because you can see that pillar of smoke, you can see the pillar of fire. God is right there. So you don't want to bring anything ritually impure into that area, because what if God, actual, one and only God, who is right there, was like, yeah, no, I can't be around that shit, I gotta go, bye. And then all of a sudden, you're the one who brought the smirch of blood or something into the space, and you're the one who chased God away from the entire community.
Now, I know you're saying that's not what you practice.
It's not what I practice. It's not what anybody practices, because we no longer have a temple, we no longer have a tabernacle. God isn't present in our... But we inherited the texts, and we inherited the traditions, and so, and when we think about impurity, we think about bad, impure. In the novel in Dracula, like when Mina has been converted by Dracula, and then they put a little touch of the wafer on her forehead, and it burns, and she turns away and goes, impure, and like she bears a scar like the mark of Cain.
So I think these messages, these themes, come up a lot. Sometimes even on a deeper unconscious level, especially for gay queer men.
Sure.
And this idea of perceiving our bodies as something impure or something sinful.
Right.
Especially for those that really were directly raised with those messages.
Yes.
But even for those who weren't directly raised with those messages, I see that coming up.
And I want to tweak that to say, not just those who are raised with those messages. It would be lovely to think that we had solved like level A of the problem and could now move on to the more subtle, work to be done. But no, there are still people who are being raised right now. There's somebody who's going to be watching whose parents, whose minister, whose siblings, whose friends, whose somebody have told him, you have to stay pure. You can't, don't get dirty.
Yeah. And that sex is dirty.
And that sex is dirty. Right. Sex is something dirty and disgusting, and we save it for those we love. It was a Jules Pfeiffer joke from your show. It's like, yes.
So then you are helping people who come to you with some of these beliefs, consciously and unconsciously. Mm-hmm. You're helping them do what?
I'm helping them find safety in their bodies. Mm. I'm helping them feel that their bodies are not a bomb, ticking, waiting to go off with, at too strong an erotic impulse that suddenly that will ruin everything. Mm-hmm. I also teach people to have a respect for the complexity of their bodies, the intricacy, all those different parts, so that they, don't answer questions like, how's your body today? And they say, oh, it's fine. Or it's fine, or it's not good, because it's not good could just mean that my arthritic left wrist is acting up today. Mm-hmm. But the rest of me could be actually quite good. Mm-hmm. And we, and I'll say that as a body worker, when you ask somebody how they're feeling today and they say, okay, it's like, all they have done is necessitated that you ask them the next question, which is, can you be more specific mm-hmm. than that? Tell me how your body feels here, there, what? Because again, somebody could be like, I'm feeling, basically fine, except my butt's a little bit sore. And mm-hmm. it's like, okay, let's talk about that. I'm feeling fine, but I'm feeling a lot of fatigue. Mm-hmm. Why don't we talk about that? And do we know why? So being able to answer questions articulately about our own bodies and what we want, and that also feeds directly into kind of the science and art of consent, as Betty Martin has stated it, but it's where clear communication. It's not just do you say yes? Mm-hmm. It's like, no, what do you want? Yeah. What does your body feel? What are you scared of? All of those things. Yes. So you want answers, you want specific answers to specific questions, not a general, my temperature is 98.6, mm-hmm.
Do you see sexuality as a conduit for connecting with God?
Yes. Martin Buber, German theologian and philosopher of the 20th century, talked about that God in relationship existed when you treat another person as another person, not as an object. So an I thou dynamic as opposed to an I it mm-hmm. dynamic. And where is God in that relationship? God is in the German word is zwischen. God is in the between, in the that which that pulls us towards each other, or maybe even like as magnets also do, like repel a little bit, but whatever the dynamic between us, that's where God is. So,
and is your work helping people experience a closer connection with their bodies and by extension with God?
Yes.
Beautiful.
Yeah, I mean, yes, I say it, humbly and.
Well, but the framework you're using. No, but the intention.
The humility was the joke part.
Yes.
No, that is what I do.
Yes. Yeah. And I love that. So this is also why I love talking with you and why I love having these conversations in the tub. Yeah. It's because, so often when I talk with gay men, especially as we get older, mm-hmm. and our bodies may not always, or rather our erections may not always work the way we want them to, or the mm-hmm. way we've been brainwashed into thinking they should. Mm-hmm. gay men often come to sort of a bit of a crisis around this. Like, okay, well then what is it? If I can't fuck on demand, what can I do? And this is where I'm like, well now we have, if you're asking these questions, now we have space to explore deeper levels of spiritual connection and consciousness that come through erotic power within yourself and in connection with others. That to me, that is the conduit of connecting with God in a deeper way.
Yeah, so I want to fixate right on that example, because if you ask a guy about his dick and like how does it feel, and what he says is, you know, I can't get it up. I'm not, you know, it won't get hard. So he is in that answer to the question. That man is not answering the question of how his dick is and how his dick feels. He's actually he's answering the question, can your dick perform a role in a very crude schematic of what our interaction ought to be? Can your dick do its job?
Yeah.
And can my dick do its job? A implies that it only has one job to do,
and that it's a job,
and that it's a job.
Yeah,
right. And that we are solely responsible. We're supposed to bring that capacity with us to sexuality, especially if we're going to top. We absolutely have to bring that with.
Yeah.
Except that the much more interesting questions remain unanswered. The questions like, how does your dick feel? Like, well, it's not hard. Yeah, I know it's not hard, but if I'm massaging it like that, how does that feel?
Yeah.
Does it feel good? And, well, yeah, it feels good, but I'm not. If it feels good, then can that be enough? Right? You know, and
so that non-erect penises can bring so much pleasure, so much joy, and we keep trying to dismiss that.
Right.
Because of the...
we not only dismiss the joy, but we dismiss the validity of a soft penis. We say, actually, you know, we basically we don't care how it feels.
Yeah.
If it's not good, if it's not able to penetrate somebody's butthole, then we don't know what. Then porn certainly doesn't ask how it feels.
Right.
But people need to ask each other how they feel. And if I'm touching you and I'm touching your dick, like, I'm not interested. I'm always interested in dicks. Like, I'm interested in what to do. But when I'm touching, I'm not interested in your erection. I'm interested in, am I finding spots on you, places on you that feel and that register pleasure when I touch them. Mm-hmm. And if I'm finding those spots, am I touching them in a way that is indeed bringing you pleasure? So if I'm missing the spots entirely, if I'm missing these places entirely, so I need to be redirected. And if what I'm doing is not bringing or stimulating pleasure, I definitely need to be redirected. So extrapolating a little out from the penis just for a moment. So most guys I know, most of the gay and bi, queer, trans men who have sex with men, that most of them like to be touched. You know, like their penis is touched or their clitoris touched, whatever a trans guy calls it. Vocabulary is there, but one place that that you would think not everybody likes his chest touched. Mm-hmm. And you can be like, see this really gorgeous chest, and you can see these really gorgeous nipples, and you can be like, let me do this, let me do that. And then about like 25 seconds in or something, we hope, you'll like look up and go, you don't feel this at all, do you? And they go, yeah, sorry, not plugged in.
Not wired, not
wired
that way.
Right.
Yeah.
But you know, so you need to know how to touch, and you need to know how to listen when somebody says, that spot is doing nothing for me.
Yeah.
And also you need to be able to we need to be able to articulate, hey, I know that you are touching me with love and beauty and good intention, but it's not doing anything for me.
So communication is also a skill that most people in our culture, I think, are not equipped with.
No, you're supposed to arrive at sex with a boner and with absolute a clear sense of how you are to perform. You are not yet. No one says arrive at sex in an atmosphere, in a state of wonderment. Just arrive.
Open, curious,
and then,
to discover.
Right, and then from there we'll work out like what you and your partners need to want to do that day. Right, but no, I think it's like, where were we supposed to? Sex is nuanced and complicated.
And most of us, especially in the queer community, got zero education.
Well, that was the question I was going to ask rhetorically, is where is it we were supposed to have learned how to do that?
And that's a big part of why I'm doing these TED Talks.
Right.
And why I'm so glad Easton Mountain exists.
Yeah.
Because we're sure not getting it from most of our health leaders in this community. We're sure not getting it from porn.
Right.
We're not getting that information or education anywhere.
Right.
And one of my intentions with these TED Talk interviews is to talk with people about their experiences and thoughts and help people understand. Especially I had a guest recently who is a physician's assistant who specializes in rectal health.
Oh no, the rectal rock star.
The rectal rock star, John Breaker. And, we were just saying, it's like...
If you're watching, John.
Yeah. And we were just saying, like, you're supposed to know all of these things with no information. And then as a bottom, you're supposed to understand how to get fucked, how to enjoy it, how not to shit, how not to bleed. You're supposed to know all of that stuff with zero facts.
Zero facts.
And that is just a terrible position to put gay men in.
Right.
So we're trying to, I know you're doing that, and we're trying to change that.
Right. Would that this were an exaggeration, but very often I think people come to asexual encounter with somebody and it's like the other person's there with a clipboard. Yep, nope, and that's it. Like didn't automatically know what to do. Therefore, not calling him back or not making him feel good. Whatever. It really we judge. We judge people on the on skills that we think that we were told they were supposed to have, partly because we feel ourselves to be judged on the skills that we've been told we're supposed to have, but we're never instructed how.
Right, and my whole thing as a human being and as a therapist is deconstructing the supposed to, or rather I call the shoulds.
Right.
Breaking down the shoulds.
Yes.
Helping people challenge and change the shoulds that can help their sexual health and their mental health and their connections and pleasure.
Yes.
Breaking down all of that bullshit that gets in people's ways of feeling good and feeling empowered and feeling closer to God when they're pursuing erotic, powerful connections. And I just think in our community there's so little room for that discussion, but we're changing that. You and me, and many of the guests in the show, we're changing that.
We are changing it. It is getting changed.
Okay, get a little bit closer. Get a little bit closer.
Yeah.
So, one of the things, one of the many things too that this kind of ties into that I was curious to talk about with you today is, as we are on this journey of exploring our sexual power and trying to find meaning in a world that is difficult. I don't remember how old you are.
64.
Yay, 64, so I'm 52. And I think, we could say we've always had struggles historically in our lives and way before we were here.
Right.
And right now we're going through a very difficult time, I think, in our history.
Right.
And even, I don't want to talk specifically about today, but because this interview is going to be evergreen and people are going to see this years ahead.
Right.
But I think any day people watch this interview, there's going to be something to point to and say, ooh, in the news, something really violent and scary happened. And I feel like I can't do anything about it. So I'm wondering for you, David, as a person, as a rabbi, how are you doing? And how would you encourage people to cope with some of the things that people are feeling so helpless about in the world?
Give me a second on this one. So this is Talk amongst yourselves.
Talk amongst yourselves.
I really need to go inside on this one. I'll start with a teaching from Talmud, which says, it is not incumbent upon you to finish the work, nor, however, are you permitted to ignore the work that needs to be done. So nobody's going to finish it. Nobody is going to get it done. But everybody is, but it is incumbent on everybody that they recognize that the obligation is not yet fulfilled. So I would start with that. So to set our expectations reasonably, right? That not heroically, not not in some grandiose cinematic way, but also not to think that our efforts don't matter. Our efforts matter, and the smallest effort matters. Rabbi David Dunn Bauer, who was the first woman rabbi to serve in Germany after World War II, so we're talking decades and decades after World War II, and one of the few women rabbis at that point to have served in Germany ever. But she told me, she said, if you know one word of Torah, you know one word that you can teach somebody else who doesn't know. So not to dismiss what we know and not to dismiss what we feel, because our gut reaction to things is often where we will find truth, because the guidelines that we have been taught intellectually are very often where we will find oppression. So if you say to yourself, I feel that this is something that's wrong and needs to be fixed, voice that. Because very often what we're fixing is something in the status quo that somebody else thought never needed to be fixed. Right? You know, why should racial inequality be fixed? Why should gender inequality and prejudice be fixed? Why should economic injustice? Why fix that?
Or shoulds? But
yeah.
Yes, I'm with you.
Let me say those are rhetorical.
Yes, yes.
No, of course they need to.
They're in their own they're in their own little world. They don't understand that there's a problem until we say there's a problem.
Right.
Until we let them know there's a problem. Then we can do that with letter writing.
Right. You can do letter writing, talking about it, having the discussion. This, I think, gets addressed on the internet all the time. What happens when you go home for the family meal and you are there at the table and somebody you love says something you abhor? What do you do? So you do call it out, but also you figure out a way. How do I speak my truth without smacking somebody down? There's no purpose in smacking somebody down when what they need is an opportunity to learn. What they deserve is an opportunity to learn. Maybe sometimes people will voice things that they don't really mean it, but it's kind of what they were taught, and they're almost testing the waters to see, does this fly, or is this as bad as I think this is? And so they're gonna wait and see. So they'll say something ghastly and wait to see if anybody stops them. Maybe somebody does, maybe somebody doesn't, but one can say things like, I respect your right to believe and feel what you do. I respect your history that has shaped your thoughts. I have to tell you that that's a word. That word is one that that I'm drawing a line. Please don't use that word in front of me. and this doesn't even have to happen like at the table. Like not everybody, all conversation stops, and it can be like, hey, hey, would you just talk to you in the other room for a second?
Yeah.
You said a thing.
Yeah, and sometimes when you do that privately, you're more likely to reach the person, because if you do it at the dinner table or in front of other people in social situations, what you're often doing is invoking their defense.
Right.
And when their defenses are invoked, they get often more entrenched in their position.
Right, and say things that they really, really don't mean to say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you start to build this wall of resistance. Like, put up your hand for a second and push against me. And then you see, like, our hands are pushing together, and look what's happening. His muscles are getting stronger, and my muscles are getting stronger, and our muscles are getting more entrenched because we're resisting each other. And the more people do that verbally, I think the more people become entrenched and solid in their positions. Whereas sometimes, as you said, a lot of times, at least in my experience, people are open to learning. They're open to at least listening and saying, it hurts my feelings when you use that term, or, I'm concerned about your views on gun violence, because I'm actually really worried and feeling affected and have been affected by gun violence. And I think we need, just whatever, reproductive rights, trans rights, to be able to really speak from that personal experience, even if you haven't had that personal experience. But if you know people or you have views, we're just like moving all around. Face the camera.
Okay.
Is that comfortable?
I'm very comfortable.
Okay. To be able to do that. So those are some of the tools that you would advise for people that are going home or going into a situation where they might be confronted with some of these values.
And key is releasing the sense that I can do nothing. Releasing the sense that, I'm powerless here. No.
How about when people are just like watching CNN all day and they're seeing all this violence in all parts of the world, and they're thinking to themselves, I can't do anything about this?
Turn off the TV. Right.
That's what I say too.
Well, so is one thing. And there's so much to say in response to that. If we're simply hypnotized by what we're seeing on the screen, then I in my chair can do nothing about what I'm seeing on the screen. That's absolutely accurate. I can't do anything about it. But when I shut down the TV, or when I move away from the screen, I as an individual can do something about any problem. I can't solve it, but I can do something. I can go to a different website. I can go to a different news source and see if I learned something different. I guess this is now, AI allows us to do this, to say, I saw this on TV and I want to help. What can I do? And I believe the internet will provide something. As a starter, you can go to this website, look at this. This place accepts donations. This place would like your signature. This group is building community around this. So there's always that. It's about creating the opportunity for the connection that Uber was talking about, the I-thou connection. If I'm watching television, it's definitely I-it, right? I'm not relating to another human being, no matter who is being depicted there. I'm just simply relating to the box. But once I say, hey, I saw, Damon, I saw something on the plight of people who had cooperated with the American governmental forces in Afghanistan, and that they are now threatened and in serious trouble. Do you know anything about this? And so I can ask you, and you might actually say, well, I do, because a friend of mine turned me onto this website or gave me this article to read. But what I want to do is get to a place where then I am talking to another person, and that person is and a person is addressing me as a person. Once I'm in that dynamic, then there is something to be done. Absolutely, there's something to be done. But not when it's just the German word for that kind of TV watching is glotzen. And like the TV is sometimes referred to as the glotze. Just it's the thing you gape at.
Yeah.
You know, and
it's passive.
It's passive.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
In terms of in this country, in terms of what the data suggests in terms of the increase in anti-Semitism in certain acts, certain messages, violations and property and people, how do you suggest people who are worried about this or thinking about this, what kind of actions or steps could they take to change this and make their communities spiritually and physically safer?
Well, so start by asking, has somebody been attacked or victimized or themselves directly? So if they have, then we move on that, we move according to that circumstance first. You do contact the police. You do not keep it a secret. You don't scrub away the evidence out of shame or wanting it to go away. Because anti-Semitism is, all terrorism is about intimidation, and the first successful act of intimidation is to get your victim to not speak up. So speaking up, and yes, I do not mean to say that that law enforcement has been a successful, reliable, trustworthy resource for people in America, equally. Certainly not equally, but not reliably. But at the same time, it is where we have to start. You have to call 911. If it's anti-Semitism, then you contact the ADL, because if nothing else, they keep statistics. So
ADL.
Did I say ADL?
Anti-defamation.
Okay. Yeah. They have the statistics about how many anti-Semitic incidents have been reported in a given geographical area. So you may think this is just somebody picking on me, but they will know if there have been 17 similar ones in your county over the last 24 hours. And also, they'll be able to help connect dots for the police, because if 17 things happen, probably one out of those 17 there was a security camera running somewhere. So you want to avail yourself of that information. So again, if something has happened to you, speak up. Speak up, to friends, speak up to officials, speak up to the police, reach out.
And in the case where it's not directly to someone, but they're watching this, they see this is happening in the world, in their community, they're seeing stuff on the news.
So let me take it the next level out. If it's you, speak up, speak out. If it's somebody you know, but it wasn't you, encourage them, empower them to speak up and speak out. Be a reliable support for them. Go with them to their appointment to the police. Go, sit with them and hold their hand when they make the phone call. So provide encouragement and support and presence. Don't leave them alone with it. All right, let's take it to the next level, which is, it's not me, it's not anybody I know, but it's something that I know is going on, and I want to, be part of the solution, not the problem. So again, shifting out of a passive either just observing or a passive resignation about something. So think, all right, I can do something. I have no fucking clue what it is I can do, but I can do something. So find online, find through your connections, who are the people whom you can reach, who have for themselves answered that question. Everybody started with a question of what can I do? So find the person who has an answer and ask if you can go with them. Find out, oh, yes, in fact, I'm going to a demonstration on Thursday afternoon. Oh, can I go with you? Is there room in the car? Can you give me the details, where to go? So asking, opening yourself up, being unashamed of your ignorance, of your cluelessness. Like, no, I don't know what to do. So yeah.
How and aside from what people do, if people are saying I can't sleep because I'm so worried, any advice or feedback or insights that you offer or suggest?
Yes. Have you taken yoga and have you called a therapist?
Yay!
Seriously?
Yeah.
Are you getting help?
Yeah. Ask for help.
Right.
Yeah.
And this connects back to
and maybe get a good massage.
And maybe get a good massage.
Yeah.
But this goes back to the conversation about that we had at the very beginning about sex. And that and men especially are socialized not to ask for help.
Yeah.
I like to think, I'm better than that. I know better. But there are also times where it's like, no, I'm just going to figure this out on my own. I don't ask for help. And no, go get help. Yeah. And for me, it's about not letting my pride steer me. I'm just as ignorant if I tell anybody that I don't know as I would be if I don't tell anybody. Yeah. So my not telling anybody doesn't actually protect me from being ignorant. It does, however, prevent me from learning something.
Yeah.
So you have to actually just say, hey, I don't know, but I have a sense this is something that, I could be doing something, we could be doing something.
Wow.
Yeah.
So I love that power of saying, I don't know.
Yeah.
That's so important.
Mm-hmm.
So speaking of people and speaking of learning and again serving and part of the ways you're helping our world, I want to know more about the ways you serve and help prisoners.
Okay. Yes.
You do work in prisons. You
Yes.
help.
All right.
What is it you're doing and how are you doing it?
Yeah. So, I am going to be very, very stingy on details, and I'm going to answer the question, but
we're going to talk very general themes here.
I'm just
not specific.
Yeah, this is. I'm not being evasive by instinct. I'm being evasive by deliberate choice. So I'm not going to say where, but I work as a prison chaplain,
which
means I am a spiritual presence to be of support to people in a prison facility. Any big institution has chaplains. Any big I'm not even sure. So armies, military forces have chaplains. Cruise ships have chaplains. Hospitals have chaplains. Nursing homes definitely have chaplains. And prisons do. State facilities do. I've always thought that theater companies needed them, but I was like, I wanted to be the first chaplain at the Stratford Festival in Canada.
And hospitals need them for the staff.
Right, absolutely. And when you're serving at the prison, you are there for the entire community. So I have been of spiritual support to inmates, and I've been of spiritual support to staff members.
And so what does that mean to be a spiritual support?
It means being with somebody in a moment of their grief or their intense emotional experience. One of the pattern where I serve is that if an inmate is going to get bad news about a family member on the outside, that information doesn't go directly to them, because you can't call an inmate on the telephone. And inmates may not even have the money to make their own phone call home. So what happens is that the family on the outside will call the institution, who will connect them with the chaplaincy department. And then chaplaincy will will verify the information, like this is a real story, real incident that is being presented. And then chaplaincy will seek out the inmate and say, either bring them to the office or meet them on their housing unit and say, hey, come with me for a moment. And we all do it differently, but I tend to be very direct. You know, hi, Mr. So-and-so, we haven't met. I'm Chaplain Bauer. We got a phone call from family and there's some bad news about your grandmother. I have a phone number for your aunt. I can place a call to her for you right now if you are willing. And they might be like, they might be, please, yes, put me on the phone with my aunt. They might be, like, I don't talk to my family. Just tell me the news, but I don't talk to them. Because it happens.
Yeah.
You know, and you just, you know, at a certain point you have to kind of, so it's one gesture, one action at a time. But that's, so, but you're there with the inmate when the inmate makes a phone call.
How about when or if they're going through a process of doing an inventory of their lives, of their decisions, and want some help reconciling?
Yeah.
And is that something you do?
Yes, I would say, yes, I would say, would you like to talk about this with me? And if they say yes, I'll say, okay, please put it in writing. Send a request to me. And what I say is, look, if you just tell me that you want an appointment, and the appointment doesn't happen, that's on you. If you write to me and say that you want an appointment and the appointment doesn't happen, that's on me. So it's like, please put it in writing, and then I'll schedule.
And about how long would that? Is this like a 50-minute session, or do you get that much time to?
It varies. It depends what else is happening on a given day, in a given week. Right now, I am in, so we're in April right now. I'm heading up towards the holiday of Passover. I have less free time in my day to give individual appointments to people, or so either fewer appointments or shorter appointments for right now.
Do you ever do groups?
Yes, I do groups. I don't, in my current position, I don't facilitate groups formally, but I will sometimes meet with, if I realize that there's a conversation in which 4 people are involved, I will get all 4 of them to...
Like in a conflict?
In a conflict.
Like mediation of some sort?
Yeah, but not in a formal way. I mean, and I have to be pretty cautious about, is this something where can I actually help? And also, is it better if I meet with everybody together, or is it better if I meet people one at a time? There's no firm answer to that one. That's case by case.
Do you ever worry about your safety physically in working with this?
No, not really. I worry about my safety more sometimes walking home late in New York, or walking to my parked car in Center City, Philadelphia, than I do there.
Wow.
Partly, I mean, things happen in prison. There is violence in prison, but most people in prison realize that the best life they can have in prison, and the greatest chance they can have of getting out of prison, is going to be dependent on their not building a history of violence. So nobody wants it. I mean, no. Nobody rationally wants it. We all have moments where we just want to smack the shit out of somebody. But you want to, and whoever you are, wherever you live, you want to be somebody who has thought it through and realizes, if I smack the shit out of somebody, I can start an avalanche of shit smacking that's going to...
You can think through the consequences.
Right. So, so you want,
But sometimes people in prison don't have the wherewithal.
Sometimes they don't any more than, we can, than people on the subway. That somebody steps on your foot and on the subway, and you, like that first moment, you don't even, it doesn't hurt. It didn't hurt, but then you have to decide, like, am I so affronted that this person didn't walk carefully and that they stepped on my shoe? Am I going to make an issue out of it? And I would venture that everybody at some point or another who has been bumped or had their shoe trod on in the subway has overreacted just because of whatever else was going on in their day. So this is not something that is peculiar to people who are incarcerated.
Right. Okay, good point.
Right? Yeah.
Good point.
Yeah.
What do you get? What do you gain from this work in prisons?
I gain God. I gain going back to Martin Buber, I gained its vision.
Say the word again?
Vision.
Vision.
Means the in between, the connection. So, let's be clear about a couple of things. Some people are in prison for having done something heinous. Some people are in prison for having done something less than heinous, but still not regulation. Some people are in prison because they were in the wrong place in the wrong time. And some people are in prison because they did absolutely nothing wrong, but they got framed and railroaded. From the facility where I work, we've all seen people who went home. Some of them after decades, when they finally got a new trial and it was proven that they could not have been the person who did it. And so somebody walks out of prison for the first time in 32 years after having served all the time for a crime he didn't do. So all of those things are possible. As a chaplain, no matter what of those histories is true, you can only deal with the person who's right there. Like, I don't know anything that happened in your life, Damon, 20, 30 years ago, and it doesn't actually, but for what this conversation, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what you did or what was done to you, because I can only be present with you as you are right now. If you want to talk about something from the past, if that's relevant to what you're feeling now, then by all means. But I don't, I'm not talking to somebody on the best day he ever had or on the worst day he ever had. I'm talking to somebody today. And if you're doing that, then I can be talking to somebody who at a young age did something absolutely heinous, just did something bad, killed people. And that was 32 years ago. I'm not talking to the 20-year-old who, God forbid, pulled a trigger or used a knife or something. I'm talking then to a 52-year-old, and that the incident, the thing that he did, is past, and I'm not his judge, I'm not his jury. It doesn't matter to me. It doesn't matter to me who he was. It matters to me who he is. And anytime I have an I-thou relationship with somebody who is willing to show me who he, she, who they are, who you are, then I'm having a very good God-infused day.
Which leads you to feel, at the end of the day, how do you usually feel leaving?
High as a fucking kite.
Wow.
It is intoxicating. It is, sometimes I have to sit at my desk for a little while and just kind of like stare at my computer at the end of the day, because until I settle stuff, I really can't make it to the door, in the way I want to. I'll sit in my car and talk on the phone and then be like, okay, now I'm ready to drive home. But also, if you've had a series of these events in the course of a day, there isn't always time to let me process this moment with this one person, and then I'm going to go on to this next experience and I'll process that. No, I mean, again, I imagine as a therapist, it's the same thing. At the end of the day, depending on who came in and what they had to talk about, like there's, it's all there, like, it's snow piling up at the door. And then, I have to figure out, so, okay, what can I just leave until tomorrow? Do I need to do anything, or can I just leave it be? Is there anybody I need to talk to or can talk to before I leave right now? Like, I might call my boyfriend, I might call somebody else. Is there somebody on staff I need to check in with? Like, to just bring myself to the point where I am not so overwhelmed by the spiritual and emotional impact of my day that I'm not, equipped to drive a car.
Yes.
So
yes,
that's, did I answer that question?
I think so, yes.
Okay.
Yes. It sounds like these areas we're describing can be so challenging and so rewarding.
Yeah.
The way you serve and contribute as a massage therapist, as a rabbi, as a prison chaplain. Very meaningful, giving work. And what helps you to feel replenished and restored? You may have said this, but if not, what helps you then to keep going and feel replenished and restored day after day, year after year?
I have, right now, I have a weekly yoga lesson that is there's a major supporting pillar for my life. And I have found that at my age, that a yoga lesson is better, one lesson is better for me than 3 classes, because my ADHD is such that if somebody's up at the front of the room and giving instructions, okay, so we're going into this picture that your right arm goes up, lift from here, make sure you're curving in, your left foot, please plant. By the time they get to the words left foot, the tilt light is gone on, and I no longer listen, or I no longer hear. And I'm busy like trying to, and then the instructions are still going, and then I'm just frustrated. Like, how does everybody? Well, what did he say to do? And you don't want to be in a yoga class, like saying, "Excuse me, pardon me for interrupting your Zen, but what did he say?" And so, for me, working with somebody who to whom I can say, "Well, wait a minute, start that over. Please start that over. I just blanked." Or you want what? God,
you're taking a lesson then.
That's why I do it my way.
Okay.
When I was younger, I was able to do classes, but my attention span is such, just the way I live my life right now, it's better off. I'm better off with a teacher. But that's hugely important.
Okay.
I have with so few exceptions that I'm going to say with no exceptions, I have never gotten rid of a classical CD that I bought. The wall of the living room is decorated in my CD collection. I can be soothed through music, specifically through opera, but classical music, it can touch me. Like, it just, I'll be listening to some Haydn quartet and it's fine, and then all of a sudden there'll be a phrase that's going to just like grab me. So that, when I do my body work professionally, I ask people if they're okay with classical music, but I do really good, intimate, erotic massage to Haydn string quartets. It works for me.
Are they playing in your mind?
They're
playing in the room?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. So things are very personal.
Yeah.
You know, I sit and watch TV with my boyfriend. We watch episodes of The Rookie. You know. Okay. Yeah. Because Nathan Fillion can heal all wounds.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, you got to start on One Life to Live. Just like that's those of us in the soap world.
Okay.
We know Nathan Fillion.
From there. Okay. Yeah. Right. But there. And then Serenity.
Yeah.
Right. The
was he on that one too?
Yeah. The Josh Whedon.
Josh Whedon?
Josh.
Oh yeah.
Oh Firefly.
Yeah, I think that was his first major role after One Life to Live.
That could be.
It was maybe a prime time role.
Okay. Stunning.
Okay.
Yeah.
Amazing. So sometimes just TV can be, just chilling, watching Nathan Fillion.
Yeah.
Enjoying TV. Squirting a little bit.
Yeah.
And for you, is there like a meditation practice or a spiritual ritual that helps to restore and replenish your nurturing energies at all?
I am not that consistent.
No, I ask because I think when people see this and they're like, this guy is so amazing and he does all this great work, they tend to assume that you must have some major discipline, higher structure, power of the gods or whatever. And I think it's really helpful to hear that you and me and everyone who's doing this work, we're just kind of doing our thing the best we can.
So I have a therapist. I have a yoga teacher. I have an obscenely extravagant CD collection. I am privileged to live in a quiet apartment with a really, really nice man. So I draw on all of my resources at some point in the week.
Beautiful.
But not necessarily, I'm not necessarily systematic, and I've never been really systematic about
Not dogmatic. You may be, I think you probably...
No, I'm dogmatic. I'm not systematic.
Systematic.
Okay. Systematic from what I'm...
You're not dogmatic about being systematic.
I'm not dogmatic about being systematic. No.
Hydromatic. It's grease lightning. I'm sorry, I couldn't resist.
We're going to move along.
We're going to move along because we're getting to the grease silliness of this. I just want to thank you so much. Thank you for taking time to speak with me and all you're doing to make this confusing world, I think, a healthier, happier place. You inspire me a lot. And I think that's what I really relate, that's what I'm doing. That's what I think everybody who's watching this, if we really go deeper, even you watching this, is doing something to contribute to the benefit of the world we live in. And there's no absolute right or wrong way to do that. It can be simple as just being nice to others. And if people do want to think of strategies, I'm a huge advocate of swingleft.org, especially during the election years, because swingleft.org has about half a dozen ways that you can help if you're concerned about the elections, your local elections, and the general elections where you live in the United States. There's so many ways to help through letter writing, phone banking, community gathering, canvassing, or any one of those. But there's so many ways that people can do things from their living room to help the election.
Yes, and you can volunteer for a campaign that you can't necessarily vote for. I live in a suburb of Philadelphia. I care deeply, though, about the city elections, and I will go and volunteer for somebody.
And I can't vote in Pennsylvania, but I certainly go and canvass and knock on doors and try to have these conversations with people. But that's the thing that helps me to feel like I'm doing something. So I don't just sit on the couch and watch CNN and feel helpless. Like I have to be able to be active somehow.
Yes.
Which is sort of how I sleep at night.
Okay. Okay. And I hope that you take it one action, one decision at a time. Or you figure out how much energy can you afford to commit to that at this moment in your life without losing track of and being less responsible about attending to the other
Right.
parts of your
For
life.
me, that's the gift of being older, is
Yes.
having a greater intuition about the balance.
Yes.
What do I need to do here? What do I need to do there? My professional life, my spiritual life, my mental health, my physical health, like to have a better balance of spinning the plates.
Absolutely.
That's not, I can't say it's always a perfect balance, but I can say it's a lot easier.
I will say one thing about prison life in general, which is that for people who, if you've never been incarcerated or you've never spent time in a prison working, prison is, please know, prison is worse than you think it is. Whatever you think, however bad you think it is, it's worse than that. And the level of social, spiritual, emotional, and intellectual deprivation that anyone who is incarcerated experiences, it's just more, it's so much more than I thought it was. And I believe it's more than anybody who hasn't been there, hasn't seen it up close, thinks it is. A former superintendent of the facility where I serve wrote a document, this is 20-something years ago, about how people in prison should be treated. And the first line was, people are sent to prison as punishment, not for punishment. Which means, just by surrendering their clothes, putting on the jumpsuit, saying goodbye to family and friends, some of whom they really won't see again in this lifetime, and have moved forward, they're experiencing tremendous hardship. So any sense that people, man, I hope something bad happens, he goes to jail and something bad happens to him, whatever. I mean, I think it's important not to spend a lot of time wishing ill on others, but just to know that even in a well-run, recently built facility, just the experience of being there, the experience of what you don't have is much stronger than people imagine. Yeah. It's not, someone's getting along. They experience deprivation as something that's happening to them actively.
Yeah.
And it's harder than most people would believe. Yeah.
So if people want to continue then to follow you, see your work, see your insights, thoughts, experiences, how would you like people watching this interview to stay aware of you?
Okay.
Or to hear your...
There are a number of different ways to get in touch with me. I would actually say don't get in touch with me about anything prison related, because I am committed to maintaining the security of where I work, and I don't have time to get involved in other people's stories around that. But check with any prison facility near you to find out whether, do they have an education program for which you can volunteer.
How about people who want to perhaps even work with you as with massage therapy?
For that, they can find me they can email me.
Okay.
So
I think you gave me your information the last time, but
they can write down there on YouTube.
All right,
same information.
You can write to me at davidbuttwhisperer@gmail.com.
Butt Whisperer. If you want to know more about the Butt Whisperer, the link down below will be from our first interview,
where we talked more about that.
We did.
And beauty of that, which I loved.
I didn't bring it up this time because I think we got into it.
We did that.
And so
we got into the butt, but it's David Butt Whisperer, not no article.
Okay,
at gmail.com. And if you are interested if you would like to have a chaplain for yourself in your life, if you would like to have a spiritual advisor, I have a practice, a private practice in queer spiritual counseling. I have a slightly dusty website, but it's still a way to reach me. It's queerspiritualcounseling.com, and you can write to David at queerspiritualcounseling.com. And I counsel people over the phone, and I have people around the country. I have people on other continents. We find the time and we make the time, and it is not therapy. It's not psychotherapy, but so it responds though to some of the same issues that would be brought up in therapy, but it it approaches them from a spiritual perspective.
Beautiful.
Is there a prayer? Is there an aspect of the infinite divine that to which you could connect that would help you in this moment?
beautiful.
So that information will be below.
And again, what I love about what you're saying in my world is like these three important trifectas of joy. Power of God, purpose of work, pleasure and eroticism and sex. And when we put these three things together, I think it is a very joyful experience.
Right. Yes.
That's available for us.
Yes.
Even with pain and chaos in the world.
Right. And they are together.
Yes.
Like it's they're inextricable and in their involvement in each other. So we talk about them as if, well, that's one thing, that's one aspect of us. My sexual side is over there. My physicality is somehow over there. Like somehow, like the same body I take to the gym is not the body that I take to bed. Like God forbid, and that religion or spirituality is somewhere else. No, it's one person.
Right. It's all together.
Yeah. Different aspects of the self, each of which is worthy of its own blessing.
Love it. So if you enjoy this talk and you want to continue to have these conversations or see some of the conversations I've had with you and with others throughout the last 3 years, subscribe down below. There's over 140 of these interviews now.
Whoa.
And all of them sort of at the base pertain to these themes, either all three of them or one of them. How we find power within ourselves, how we find purpose contributing to the world, and or how we find pleasure and a sense of being alive in our bodies.
Yeah.
And I'm just, this is what I love about this series, is like having these opportunities to talk with some brilliant people about these subjects. And hopefully the people watching this will think about how you can broach these topics in your bathtubs, in your pools, wherever you have.
And we'll bring the show to a bathtub near you.
Yes.
You can just book us and
That's
we'll come sit in your tub and talk.
Spiritual tubbing.
Spiritual tubbing. Resources include eastonmountain.org, an amazing amazing queer founded and run retreat center in upstate New York.
Yes.
And also Body Electric School, and I don't know what the website is, but it will be below.
I think it's just bodyelectric.org, but I'll have it.
But you can also
right down there.
Search for it. Does all kinds of extraordinary, really hands-on, body-on teaching about the connection of spirituality and eroticism.
Beautiful. All right, everybody. Thank you for watching. Have a great day.
Blessings. Bye.